Yo, much respect, fam. I know it's been a minute since I've actually dropped a little message, so I just want to jump in on this topic because it's really trending. I've had several people call me up and really ask my own reflections on this. So I realized that if the universe is synchronizing individuals to contact me, then it means that this is really something that needs to be spoken on. And just like you're seeing it, Pope Francis allows blessings for same-sex couples under certain conditions. Honestly, I'm just gonna run into this. In spiritology, our concept of what is sexual freedom follows this simple basis and orientation of thought. Wherever mature adults consent to engage in any sexual form of expression that they feel is appropriate, it is erroneous for another individual who also seeks to have their own sexual freedom and sexual expression respected to form a position of bigotry or bias towards the other individual. The only situations in which we, using spiritology, would degrade or find something like a wrongful sexual practice would be where the rights of an individual, their rights to consent, are violated. And we would see this in situations of pedophilia or in forms of bestiality or in situations where an individual is somehow mentally challenged or mentally incapacitated. Like maybe if you had someone in a state of a coma and a healthcare worker decided now to take sexual advantage of them. These are situations where we would see that the will and right of the individual to express themselves, to freely consent, has been violated. In other situations like this, we come out very clear to say, because you took it upon yourself to violate the sexual freedom of another individual, because freedom indicates the right to indulge. It means the right to consent. Whereas when you are instead now impeding upon someone's sexual freedom, you're acting in a compulsive nature, not just your own sexual compulsion, but you are removing the rights of that other individual to consent. So pedophiles, these are very, very deviant. I would prefer to say wicked, but there's not a word to describe what a pedophile actually is by taking their sexual expression to the point that they feel they have the right to compromise someone who has not yet reached the age of puberty. You have no right as a mature adult to have any sexual interactions with an individual who is a minor. This should just be period, point blank understood before we look at now the Pope's situation, because it's mind-boggling to individuals in a Judeo-Christian context to hear the Pope now come out and take this liberal stand, which seems to deviate from the canon law on what they have upheld for so long as their pride of bigotry towards sexual freedom on the face of the planet. I want to bring this into context historically, because before the Romans adopted this whole Ptolemaic, Christos, Hebrew, Israelite basis of Abrahamic tradition, they do acknowledge that there was a naturalist perspective on human sexuality on the face of the planet. So 2,000 years ago, there was no such thing as anti-homosexuality. There was no such thing as even heterosexuality in this, status quo orientation that we see today, that it was created that it must be one man, one woman. Why am I saying this? Because even in the naturalist context of African societies, where a lot of Africans will come out and shout and be like, oh, why aren't you just being a bigot and saying that homosexuality, lesbianism, the queers, and the transsexuals are wrong and deviant and bad? This is why. In African societies, as naturalist people, even indigenous societies in the original nations of the lands called Americas today, even in Oriental societies, it's always been a sexual norm that a man who is capable could have more than one female life partner. I'm not going to use the word marry or marriage because I don't want to go into the whole Judeo-Christian construct of what they believed, one man, one woman, and the whole feudal concept of the Roman Catholic Church and the lords determining who could marry to support their whole economic structure and control of population. I don't want to get into all of that. But we as Africans have always had polygamy as a normal sexual form of expression in life partnerships. But now we see that because they took on this Judeo-Christian context of trying to interpret what is sexual freedom, sexual rights on the face of the planet, when they invaded our lands and enslaved us, they took the polygamy away. I'm speaking polygamy in terms of polygyny, one man, one woman, but sexual freedom rights under our understanding of mature adults consenting, it gives the right for even one woman, if she is capable, to engage in a polyandrous relationship, that is one woman with multiple men as life partners. That is her right to sexual expression and consent. If we find situations of even polyamory, where we have mature adults consenting to be with more than one life partner and not making a conclusive legal relationship where it is recognized that this is a man and a woman who are husband and wife, that is their own right to be mature adults who consent. So we don't take this idea of saying that the Judeo-Christian structure of what is, a marriage is the standard as per nature-based spiritual practices on the face of the planet, before they brought this whole illusion of trying to force human beings to follow this construct of not acknowledging that in nature there is variety. In nature there is spectrum of sexual expression within the context that I have very clearly alliterated it and stated it. So when we look at this situation now, the Pope coming forward to start to bless same-sex couples, or giving that logic of orientation within the Catholic faith, that he doesn't see it as a taboo. I'm going to take it from this perspective, knowing that the Vatican City has actually no anti-homosexual laws as a sovereign state. But within the context of the canon law of the Roman Catholic Christian tradition, which has then been descended to its denominations, it is considered a moral taboo or an unethical sin as per the religion for individuals who are Christians to not follow that particular form of sexual expression. This is the irony of all of this, and I'm going to start to round this up. In Italy, in the Christian tradition, even in Western society, despite homosexuality, lesbianism, being queer or transsexual being looked down upon and considered taboo, it has never stopped these sexual expression and practices from being practiced within the confines of Christians. Actually, when we talk of Caesar Borgia, when we look at even the popes, there are popes who have been noted in history to have had sexual orgies right inside the Vatican. I mean, in the Holy See. We know the lords, and we know of, what they talk of, some of these exclusive secret societies, as they call them, and things of that nature. People talk of Hollywood and all of those things, and all of, the private sexual gatherings that are going on in the background amongst elite aristocratic people. So, I mean, even if you want to start talking of this thing in the context that they're trying to present it, what the Pope is actually doing is he's taking everyone out of the closet and saying that, this has always been going on in the background. So as we are preparing now for the transhumanist movement to start coming, which is actually where this is going, people are not paying attention to this. Because what they started doing with the whole rhetoric of what are your pronouns? Me, I identify as he, him, we, there, or it. Obviously, those are my natural pronouns. Other people will have their own. But by doing this, they've created now a mental paradigm for individuals who will in the future not want to identify as being male nor female to begin to engage in, you see Elon's already talking about the Neuralink and things of that nature, and the whole transhumanist agenda to begin to assimilate artificial intelligence and technology to the human body. The basis of ethical discussion is going to go in this line of orientation and thought, that they've already laid the foundation for it. So many of you, you've already missed what the point is, and you're looking and debating in the wrong direction. So I hope that if you've already listened to this video and come this far, then you've gotten the whole scope of how spiritology would approach this particular topic. So you don't find yourself speaking illogically or from a perspective of bigotry in any conversation or dialogue on this particular issue. I'll be honest. There's LGBTQ, they should add the P to the end, because we have polygamous people, polyandrous, polygynous people, and they should also have their right as a free sexual practice while we are evolving in this context. As far as that not being recognized and them trying to force it as an agenda on Africans and not acknowledging that, then that is where we do find some conflict, of course, as naturalists. So I hope you got the message. That's where I'm going to be out on it. There's not a lot to say. It's just as crystal clear as that. Peace profound, fam. Peace.